Hi there, CoronaTV viewers. I'm Johnny Damon.
You're my bobblehead Joel today, just nod up and down if you agree. Welcome to the show, Mitch. Joel, how are you?
Happy birthday to you.
And just look at those washboard abs.
I know, right? Oh yeah, this is the fittest I've ever been in my life, you know.
Happy birthday from Johnny Damon.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump. Well, hello, everybody. I am live from my brand new Airstream. Why do I have an Airstream? Well, if you don't know the answer, then you clearly don't know who Jeremiah Owyang is. So today we will be Airstream to Airstream, except one of our Airstreams is real and the other one is not. But I'll tell you, when you do get a glimpse of his Airstream, it looks so goddamn perfect that I'm almost convinced it isn't real. He's going to have to like touch an item of furniture to prove to me that it isn't one of the greatest green screens in the history of the business. He's truly one of the smarter, if not smartest minds out there. And he's going to share some thoughts about tech wellness, about the future of work, and other related aspects as well. Mr. Bob Farnham says, I've been looking forward to this since you told me you got Jeremiah Owyang signed up. It was hard because he's a busy man. He is busy doing exercise. He's busy creating phenomenal Loomscapes or frameworks, infographics, but more importantly, insights, visionary insights, helping us understand the world as it is and as it is changing and what it is becoming. So we'll meet him soon enough. But today is actually it's quite apropos because we're going to be talking about mental health or just wellness in general, physical wellness, etc., tech-enabled wellness. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It is very real. It is very important for us to understand and for us to do our thing. Now, I'm not going to give advice because I'm not qualified to, but I'll tell you, in doing a little bit of research for this, I actually stumbled upon, this is a UK-based alliance. It's called the Zero Suicide Alliance because one life lost is one too many. And I actually went and completed a module, some kind of it's not even certification, but just in terms of becoming more aware. And that is my certificate. So there's amazing number of resources out there available to us, whether we ourselves are struggling or whether we, in fact, are not, but can help others and see the signs of people that are. And I think that is the more important idea here. So just two things that I picked up that I wanted to share with you. One is a word that we've heard a lot on the show, joy. The lack of joy or the absence of joy, the void that is created when there isn't joy, is something that certainly contributes to depression and can be a contributor towards the propensity to take one's own life. The other aspect, and it is very much connected, is loneliness versus connectedness, and the isolation that has taken place during this time of COVID. It's not just isolation physical, it's also mental. It is spiritual isolation, being separated from our churches and our mosques and our temples, suffering as many Californians have been with these wildfires, not even feeling safe with respect to all of the unrest going on. It all leads to this idea of being disconnected. And certainly if I've tried to do anything, it's the least I can do through CoronaTV. It has been to be able to bring joy to people and to bring a sense of community and connectedness. I feel very joyous and connected because Jeremiah is with us today, and you'll get to meet him if you don't know him already. Shame on you if you don't soon enough. Wanted to just reach out and say happy birthday. to a bunch of people. Barbara Lippert, Fighting the Good Fight. Dan Nestle, who does not actually work at Nestle, he works at Mitsubishi. And who else is there? Jason Cooperman, one of the original digital OGs in the agency world. Charles Green, one of my previous guests, and certainly one of my favorite as well. Happy birthday to you on LinkedIn. Well, today's seated soliloquy, which of course is going to be connected to Jeremiah, I've titled Healthy Body, Healthy Mind. You know, when the pandemic hit, there are probably two things that saved me. One is obviously CoronaTV, and the other was running. Until this weekend, I was somehow injury-free. And between the full months of April and August, I actually ran a minimum of 50 miles every month and hit 67 miles in August. I've also lost just under 20 pounds conveniently in 2020. I've been inspired by industry colleagues like Jeremiah and Lee Oden, who've embarked on similar paths. And I must say that when faced with an injury, which is what I encountered over the weekend, I felt a cloud, or perhaps I should say a weight, descend on my shoulders. I felt the heaviness. I felt how fragile the protective layer of my mental strength was, or rather, I should say, I knew the crack in its exterior armor was going to be a test of my true resilience. Now, just to be clear, all of this happened on Monday of this week when I set out on a run, and I made it about a third of a mile before stopping and walking back feeling pretty dejected. So why am I sharing this today? You know, it's not even a week later. Because I've conquered my weakness? Nope. I've eaten poorly this week, although in my defense, you know, it was Labor Day and my daughter did go back to college after 6 months of being with us at home. So definitely a need and a justification for a lot of mint choc chip ice cream. And as a result, the scale has not been my friend this week either. But I know I'm going to figure it out. For starters, I didn't run away from fat blogging, from sharing my weight with you this week. And of course, my weight had gone up. And then, of course, I have you, the community, the people formerly known as the audience. So I'm getting into a normal routine, eating-wise, and after icing, not icing cake, but, you know, icing twice a day and taking a leave, I might just attempt to get back out on the road again over the weekend and test the injury. The hip pain has actually shifted to the glute, and I'm a lot more comfortable with muscular over joint pain, if in fact that's what it is. After all, I'm at the age now where the word replacement is a lot closer to home than it used to be. I do not want a hip replacement. All in all, I stay resolute that the key to a healthy mind is a healthy body, and the key to a healthy body is a healthy mind. And of course, I'll keep you updated on my progress, my friends. Well, that's a little bit of an update from me. But if you want, I guess, a real update on an absolute rock star, well, that would be Jeremiah Owyang. Let me just bring him straight onto the show. And by the way, you know, let's look at a before, and now let's look at an after. Look at that body.
Hey, everybody.
Look at that face. Wow. Hey, Jeremiah.
How you doing, Joe? I hope you feel better. An injury is not a good thing to deal with, but I'm sure you'll take care of yourself and get over that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big part of it was this whole idea that, you know, when things go wrong, you know, in a global pandemic, you almost fall to pieces. And there's a fragility associated with however strong you thought you were, and whatever walls you built, they kind of crumble. But I think just being able to, and I think, you know, going back to National Suicide Prevention Week or Suicide Prevention Week, the key, I think, is just talking, right? Articulating, sharing, just putting it out there as opposed to bottling it up inside.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you have a wonderful community around you and with you, so you're never alone.
Well, and you know, you're a part of it today, Mr. Jeremiah Owyang, tech
I'm glad to
analyst
be
at
here.
Kaleido Insights. So you know what, I want to take a look at that Airstream in a moment, but David Libby just said it's the J&J show.
Hey, David.
Love it. So this is not big pharma. This is I don't know what it is. Big egos. No, it's not that. I don't know what it is. Jeremiah, let me go full screen on you for a moment.
Sure.
I mean that, Steve Garfield, he proudly talks about how Room Rater gives him a 10. I think that's got to be a 15. And I just need you to prove to me that that is not a green screen. You need to touch or move a pillow or switch off a light or do something for me, because it just looks too perfect.
I don't want to ruin the experience, so I'm not going to do that. I just leave you guessing whether it's real or not.
Damn you, damn you. Well, there's one way that you can prove it, which is to give us somewhat of a tour. But before you do, let's just take a step back for a second, which is Airstream. What Airstream? Why an Airstream? Like just fill me in and fill us in as to why you're even in an Airstream.
Sure. Well, Airstreams are really around the spirit of adventure and modernism, and this is an iconic, design. If Apple made a recreational vehicle, this would be it, and I was always attracted to it. And so it was a no-brainer. There was no other brand that I would use. But essentially, I actually purchased this and got a loan for it a few years ago. I wanted a quiet place to work. I was at that time a few years ago, before the pandemic. I was not able to work in the house where it would be quiet. Now it's actually acceptable to work somewhere and be on a Zoom call with somebody and it's loud and kids running around. But at that time, that was not acceptable with professional standards. You're expected to be in an office. So I actually analyzed the market. Should I get a single office, which would be $2,000 a month, or I get a loan as a full business write-off as a business expense for an Airstream for $370 a month. And well, I made the right call. So it's 29 steps from the house. I just walk back here to work. And I'm not alone. Ann Hanley has a tiny she shed in her backyard, and I got my idea was inspired from hers. So many people are setting up their home offices in their backyards, and many governments, local cities encourage you to develop ADU, accessory dwelling units now. And there's a whole category of a market now where they're setting these things up in 2 weeks' time, or pulling in prefabs, or selling RVs. Most of the RV manufacturers are even creating home office versions now. So this is a trend. It's a full-on market now.
And obviously there's a bed in the background. So I guess if, I know this wouldn't happen to you, but for me, if I ever got kicked out the house, I could sleep in my Airstream. So that would be good.
It's possible. I've actually never slept overnight in this. I just go, why would I do that? I have a nice bed inside the house, and I don't even have the water hooked up in here. So I just have the electricity running on a 120V, and there's also obviously internet, 1 gig line with Orbi 5G internet wireless, and I have screens and lights around me because it's dubbed the Tiny Airstream Studio. So that's what this is. Yep, you had Airstream conventions. And
by the way, Steve Garfield has rated you 10 out of 10 already. So that's big coming from him. You have to get a 10 out of 10 rating in order to give one out.
That's high praise.
So, Jeremiah, what was interesting about what you said just now is that, being an analyst, that's what you did. You analyzed the market, you did the math.
There's a whole spreadsheets, yes, all that.
But it's so funny because, to someone from the outside, people, the creativity of it, just the ability. Well, Jeremiah, he bought an Airstream. He's in an Airstream. He's streaming from the Airstream, by the way. Nice little play on words. And you just sat and you made a smart business decision and life decision because, the separation, I think, sometimes is good too, to be away from the barking dogs and the crying kids and whatever.
All of that. Yes, all of that. Well, I am fortunate, and I don't want to, overlook that there's some privilege here, and I'm quite aware of that. So I actually didn't talk about it in public at all until the conference season died, and I needed to show to the market, hey, I'm this speaker ready. lights, camera, 4K camera, lavalier mic, ready to go. So that was I made it public once the pandemic hit. I happened to be ready.
And the studio is behind you, right? It's outside. Or where
I'm
where
in
do
the
you
studio.
No, but
This is the view you would see when I'm streaming.
So you've been, this is your view. So let's just have a look at you for a second.
Yeah, I did a keynote this morning actually for the event conference organizer space, and this was this is the view. And so there's a bunch of lights around here, and I got you can see the the colors and the depth of field and the perception, plants in the background, like lots of trial and error to get it to the certain lighting structure depending on time of day and all that. So, and tested lots of equipment, AV equipment, interviewed many YouTubers to find out which type of camera systems to use and all that. So, yeah.
So Jeremiah, Kathy Keeley asks, what's the last thing you did that you didn't analyze at all?
Probably her LinkedIn message there. That's about it.
Exactly. There you go. All right. So now I want you, please, just to, if you wouldn't mind, if you would be
sure.
so kind, is maybe just show us around or give us a little glimpse as to
All right,
maybe.
so this is the opposite side, and I have another Logitech camera, and this is what I am looking at. I'm sitting at a desk, and there's a bathroom, which I've never used, and there's a door that it connects to, and it comes with this TV, and there's a refrigerator down there. This is a 22-foot Airstream, so it is a medium small. Airstreams are iconic for its round shape and aluminum body fuselage. Even the door looks like an airplane door, and they actually modeled it after that. And then outdoors you can see the backyard. There's the 29 steps to the house. Obviously there's this ring light, which is very blinding, so let me go through that. So you can see there's a kitchen here, there's a burner stove, convection oven, dual sinks that are underneath this right here, if I can get this right. I don't even use the water. Windows everywhere, but they create a significant glare, so I have them closed when we're doing videos, and there's like lots of storage everywhere. And then you can see these are lighting systems that I have up around me. And then here's the camera, a Sony, a 4K camera, DSLR that I'm looking at. And you can see I'm actually very, very close to it because it's a specific lens. And then the workstation here, laptop, phone, and a very large 32-inch monitor. And here you are.
Amazing.
Helpful?
Now, beyond and quite frankly fascinating.
Shift camera. Well, so you
beautiful.
can see the depth of field, right? The all of that. Get that all dialed in for that softer look and all that stuff. Because I'm getting old. I got wrinkles.
Well, you may have wrinkles. I have wrinkles too. You can see. Wait, there's one. I'm trying to cover up the wrinkles with my beard at the moment. You, on the other hand, are beautifully cleanly shaven.
All the way up there, yeah.
But you've actually gone through obviously another transformation, and I have to say, I mean, we have a little bit of fun sometimes and by sometimes I mean all the time on CoronaTV, and we find out little fun facts about our guests. Your fun fact, and there you are, actually, amazing how you're able to just tilt your face like that. But you can do 100 burpees in 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Now that isn't the transformation, but that's just a fun fact about you. So 6 minutes and 45 seconds is a burpee per how many seconds?
It's around 4 seconds. And yeah, there's a spreadsheet so I can get the metronome right. So if I wanted to hit a certain amount in a specific time, then I could. So yeah, I had to figure all that out, and how do you be efficient with your movement. And that was my pandemic workout because the CrossFit gym closed. So we couldn't go to the physical gym, so I just worked on body weight exercises, also known as calisthenics. So one day would be push-ups, the other day would be pull-ups, chin-ups, the third day would be burpees, and that hits pretty much every muscle group and cardio. And we weren't even allowed to really go outside too much, and so burpees are a wonderful exercise because they get your cardio system And so I'm operating under the assumption that I will get COVID, and I think many of us should, given the direction of the numbers. So I want to make sure that my respiratory system is tip-top shape. There's no medical evidence that having a respiratory system in tip-top shape means you won't get the virus, by the way. Let's just be really clear. But it is a respiratory virus, so why wouldn't you strengthen that muscle set and system set? So that's my thinking on that.
It was actually quite funny because I said to you, like, I emailed you and I said, would you like to maybe do 100 burpees on the show? And you're like, no, but I'll teach you how to do it. And I was like,
in fact, it is time to do that, but you might be in injury mode.
And I was thinking that is the worst idea that I've ever heard in my life. But Michael Donnelly says beyond all the fancy equipment, you both look
Michael
like you're
Donnelly
in great shape.
I really respect Michael, and just so glad to hear you around. Let's talk about burpees for a second. It is a great exercise, and Michael actually served in the armed services, so we're very grateful for her service. But it is an exercise that is used often in the military because you don't need equipment. Like you don't need to buy a $2,000 Peloton machine with a $40 membership. You can do it anywhere, and it's using your own body weight, and it's using a majority of your muscles. And the going from prone position on your belly to standing up is the rite of passage for a child, and it is really defines us as an able adult. So once you are not able to stand up, you're shifting in your life stages. So it is a really crucial movement and a core function of who we are as a bipedal creature, just speaking at a philosophical level. And it's great for balance, and it is really just a great way using all your muscles in your body to get you up and down. So I think it's really a good movement if you are in a confined space or you don't know anything else to do. And you don't have to do 100 in X period of time. You can set a small amount. And by the way, the first time I did 100, it took me 1 hour. This was about 5 years ago. 1 hour, because I had to stop, and I was so out of breath and I was so overweight. It was very painful. And so it's been a progression, to be very clear.
Look, it's amazing, and there's a journey, right? There's a very simple starting point, and then there's an incredible. It's not even an ending point. It's just where you are right now. From 1 hour to 6 minutes, 45 seconds, I think, is the time. But there's more to it, right? There's necessity is the mother of invention in terms of being confined. Actually, Tom said that a Navy SEAL once told him that burpees alone will keep him in shape 100 as fast as you can being the goal.
Absolutely.
But I love seeing yet another example of your analytical mind in action. I know you, we know each other. When I'm in San Francisco, I always try and reach out to you and have a cup of coffee or a drink with you, non-alcoholic, I think we typically have, but I've never seen your analytical mind in action in terms of living your life and making life decisions. And I think it's beautiful. It's refreshing, and it's practical. It's pragmatic as well. And these are just two examples, even in the space of a 10-minute conversation with you.
Yes, thanks. It is fun. I do like to chart and track patterns. This is what I do as part of my job. Recently, I started even a dream journal, and this is something for everybody to consider. And it seems really fluffy, like West Coast hippie thing. And I was taught to do this from Loic Lemur, who used to run that famous conference called Le Web, and he started a number of conferences and companies himself. And every morning, I recall my dreams before I open my eyes, and then I remember what they are, then I write them down. And I've been doing this for over 2.5 months now, and I can see some clear patterns on like what I'm afraid of, what I'm insecure about, what am I suppressing. Even when the pandemic started, some of the first dreams I had were around zombie attacks. That's a direct metaphor that people around me want to kill me, right, with their breath and bite me, right, which is COVID. But most of my dreams really now are around travel. Like I miss travel. I miss going to airports and going to new cities. And so that's a majority of the dreams. And it's a lot cheaper than a therapist. You start to self-analyze and think about what you need to do. Not everybody has access to people who can help you. So a dream journal is a great thing, especially during this pandemic, to be mindful of yourself.
I'm going to try that. I actually had a dream last night that I'm just remembering now. I was on a plane, ironically, same thing. It was an Aeroflot plane, so it was a Russian airline, and we're going somewhere from mid-Europe to, I guess, Moscow. But for whatever reason, just before we took off, I had a full glass of scotch in my hand, and I don't know that I think we took off, but I'm not quite sure, because I know that we were actually grounded for a while. And then two things happened. One is we were just on the ground, but driving. And I remember saying to someone, "Are we actually just driving? Are we actually going to just like drive all the way to Moscow?" And then at some point, I spilt my drink, and the whole drink just spilt on the floor. And I remember wanting to get it filled up again. And there was a giant like living room, almost like an atrium inside this plane. And then I woke up.
I mean, there's a lot of metaphors that are your subconscious is talking
help
to you.
Help me, Dr. Owyang.
I'm not a psychologist or a dream analyst. There are those people that do that, but the fact that you got on a plane but wasn't sure if it was going anywhere. I mean, that's
I was going to Russia.
That's a deeper thing too. Yes. So that is something that has really helped me during the pandemic, in addition to fitness, just trying to stay sane. And it's been stressful, for all of us. And I appreciate you saying that in the beginning of your remarks. Like, it has been pretty taxing, and I recognize I am in a place of privilege, so I can imagine people, they're both parents are working on the front line, 3 kids at home, they don't have internet access, they don't have Chromebooks, right, for their kids. There's many people in this country and beyond who don't have those resources. So this is a real trying time for all of us.
And look, what you just said there, which has so much weight and value, is to constantly check yourself and remind yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a humbling, but it's also a grounding thing to remind ourselves that if we think we're rich, there's someone richer. If we think we're poor, someone's poorer. If we think we're sick, there's someone sicker. But in this case, it's something slightly different, which is we have the right to be fearful. We have the right to complain. We have the right to have our emotions. But we also have an obligation to realize the connectedness and everyone around us.
That's right. And we shouldn't self-shame any of our woes. And some people are like, "Oh, I shouldn't talk about this." But it's okay to recognize you have privilege, but then you need to also do something about it.
We had a very interesting exchange, because I realized, like, I have to apologize to you, because I always try and come up with a pithy description of my guest. And I think I called you the Burpee King. For some reason. I don't know what I was thinking, calling you the Burpee King. And you sent an email back to me going, "You know what? If we're just going to talk about burpees the whole time, I'm going to be quite annoyed with you." And I thought to myself, like, well, of course we're not going to talk about burpees the whole time. So I changed your description to what I call now the wellness walker. Because first of all, it made me think of a white walker, which is, he means business. But walking as in you walk the talk. And I think that is important as well. You're fit, you're healthy, you're in shape.
For now.
And you've gone through your own transformation. And as someone who, I met you when you were at Forrester, and then you were a founding partner at the Altimeter Group, with a bunch of smart people, ex-Forrester people at that as well, and now you're doing it again. And there are many things about your vision, which we'll come to in a moment, but I do want to just acknowledge and have you maybe talk a little bit about this transformation, this physical transformation, why did you go through it? What was the motivation that led you down this path?
Sure. And yes, I do want to talk about the market research. That, I mean, I'm almost hesitant to talk too much about myself. I'll do that on Facebook, but I just want to make sure people know that Joseph's forcing me to do this.
Of course. Well,
All right. I was unhealthy. I was pre-diabetic. I was technically obese. 30% body fat is technically obese for a man. Women have different rates, and at my age. And I was definitely starting to feel my age. And I neglected my health when I was focusing on companies, as many entrepreneurs do. And that was a trade-off that I made. And so when I turned the ripe age of 40, I said, it's time to change. And I made a commitment. And so when people have their midlife crisis, they can do destructive things to themselves, or they could get obsessed with their health and trying to increase their longevity and quality of life, which I did. Obviously, as you can tell, everything I do with full force, passion, and spreadsheets. So I did get in shape, and I use a number of technologies and tools. I started often with a DexaFit scan, which is a machine that'll scan your body. You lie down, and it's an X-ray machine. So I knew exactly what my baseline was, and the fat levels and the muscle. And then I started to go to the gym, and got involved in CrossFit community. And so I just really want to make that change. I also became a father, which was critical, that I needed to be around for a long time. And I have young children, and I just told you my general age. It means I'm going to be an older father, which, by the way, in Silicon Valley and on certain East Coast cities, people have kids when they're around this age. But when you think about it, like, I may not see my grandkids, right, if I don't take care of myself, because the generational gaps are much older and longer now. And so do I want to see my grandkids? Well, then I better do something about it. So that was really the genesis of it. And then I started down multiple wellness paths, from diet to fitness to sleep and using tech and beyond. So that was the reason for all of those things. Is that helpful?
It's very helpful. And, there are a lot of people, even on the comments, David Libby using Whole30. And if you've been following, yes, Steve Garfield with the Murph challenge.
Yes, I've done that
as well. And
they're also good for you.
And they're also, it is suicide prevention week, I think it is, and as opposed to day. And there are a lot of people now that are raising awareness for suicide amongst our veterans that are doing the push-up challenge
22
as well.
Push-ups, yeah, absolutely. And that gives you purpose and community, right? Both of those things, which are core to the well-being aspects. And so the Murph Challenge, which Steve pointed out, is for one of our fallen soldiers. And it happens on Memorial Day, and so it is a form of community, let alone the workout's brutal, but the point being, you work towards it as a goal, right? So having purpose, having community, doing it for somebody else, all of those things are the things that motivate us to keep us focused on the essence of life and what we're trying to do to move forward during this horrible time.
Jeremiah, I mean, we've known each other for a while, and I've never seen the side of you that, in a way, rejects the limelight, because let me rephrase that, which is, I just see this beautiful humility to you, and almost saying, I don't want to talk about myself. And, the goal of, through CoronaTV, I stopped talking about myself too, which is one of the reasons why my background is always something about my guest. And I actually found it to be very liberating. The less I focused on myself and talking about myself, the more free I felt, putting the spotlight on my guest and showcasing them and celebrating them, quite frankly. And I'm not going to keep doing that too, because I see you don't like doing that, but I do.
Well, thank you for holding space for me.
I see value. I see value in you being able to share these stories, just like Steve was doing, etc. Because there are a lot of people out there that can be inspired by us being quite public about our personal lives. I think that's a big change, though. This isn't about bragging. This isn't about oversharing. This is actually about overcaring, if that can be said. And that's why I'm truly glad that you shared with us a bunch of personal journeys, transformations, your weight, your fitness, the Airstream story. And I feel like it's a good segue to this is a show about hope, positivity, and optimism. And if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing, there's enough time to talk a little bit about marketing, which is where your focus is right now, which is wellness and tech wellness. But, before we do that, you were very, I think, on the forefront of building tremendous amount of thought leadership and intelligence around the sharing economy. And I would love for you to just talk very briefly about
Sure.
that, and then we'll get into wellness, because I've seen how you've incorporated that thinking now into your new focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's just look at
talk
the
about
tech
that.
industry. The first phase was the first era. There's been like 5 eras. The first era is the .com era, when physical stores became digitized. And now we know who the winners are. It's Amazon, Google, eBay, PayPal. So that's very clear. The next phase was the social media era, and that's when you and I connected, where the physical media became digitized, and as well as people could create their own media, and that created a power shift yet again. The next market was the sharing collaborative economy, and I worked with Michael Donnelly on this, on some of when he was at his role as an executive, around how people, instead of social media, peer-to-peer media, it was peer-to-peer commerce. People got rides and homes from each other, and even money. And so that was, you can see this threading of it. So the physical world around us was becoming digitized. So what's after that? So I talked about the market, commerce, media, the physical world around us has become digitized. Guess where the next phase is? In us. So the tech companies have aimed their sights towards digitizing humans. And with Corona and COVID-19, it's become even more important than ever. So that has been this journey on how we're seeing the data is now around our biometrics and who we are as a human. Now, in particular, the wellness market or well-being market is different than there's some overlap, but it's slightly different than the health market, which is the pharmaceutical market, insurance, or healthcare. The well-being market is consumer-driven, where they make their own choices. They choose to put on a smartwatch. They choose to download Strava to record their runs. They choose to get a food service to deliver them healthy foods. They choose to upload data around their diets in MyFitnessPal. They choose to wear an Oura ring to track their sleep. So it's a different thing. And the difference is the health market, you might go to your doctor once a year to do a checkup and give them data, versus the tech companies are taking data from you continuously grabbing our data around our minds, bodies, communities. And so I see this as a massive market, and it's obviously health is the topic du jour, or topic of the year, or at least the next few years as we go through this. So that's kind of the setup that I wanted to share, that the next phase, digitizing the outer world around us, the next phase is the inner space, and here we are.
I'm going to ask you one quick follow-up question, and then we'll get into this fantastic, that infographic where you've, I don't want to, if I called it a Lumiscape, that would be incorrect, right? Because that is...
that is a specific company that provides...
Which is our friend Terry, right? So we won't call it that. But
who's Terry?
Did I say Terry? Kawaja.
Okay, no, I don't know him.
I think he's at Luma.
Got it. Luma
Partners, right?
That's right.
So we'll get into this fantastic distribution and visual representation of the marketplace. You spoke about privilege earlier, and we're talking about a certain privilege as well, to have access to apps and accessories and wearables. How do you see that part of the marketplace shifting or adapting in terms of being able to make these kinds of products? And in some cases, they can be life-saving, right? Like the Apple Watch with a EKG built in. How do you see that becoming embedded and becoming more accessible to a broader, more, maybe even arguably more needy population?
Yes, so it is for a, quote, wealthier, more privileged market at this time, especially the devices, and the most popular company in this market, the big winner has been Peloton, right? So this is for sure the top of the food chain at the moment. But there's a number of apps that use location data, or there's free access of content on YouTube that can help individuals, get wellness information or learn new workouts or access dance songs if they wanted to do fitness or to learn meditation. For example, Calm and Headspace both have, and Insight Timer also have free versions, especially came out during COVID. And of course, you can find tremendous amounts of content on any of the social networks that are very accessible right now. So the content has definitely exploded, especially during the last 6 months, but the devices are not as accessible due to the cost. But that will come down over time.
Yeah, and maybe more socially conscious and and committed companies might do well to make them available to a broader based group of consumers. But
that's right.
But so let me bring that the chart and the landscape analysis, if you will, up on the screen, and I would love for you to school us, if you don't mind, and explain this in broad strokes, and then I'll move it around a little bit.
Great, and I'll tweet out the URL to that specific graphic a little bit later once I get access here, so you can read it. But essentially, this market, if you could zoom into the Vitruvian person, Joe.
I can do that.
Yeah. The right hand is too dense for us to go through, so let's just focus on this Vitruvian person. And this is us, this is you, this is me. And there's a ring of technologies which in a keynote graphic speech I would go through that have appeared, from big data, AI, wearables, chatbots, VR, AR. There's so many sensors now. Like I could go through them. There's over 50 another time. But essentially, the technology has embedded on our bodies, augmented us, has added to us, in some cases invaded us, whether or not we wanted all these sensors and this data around us. And essentially the market is in 4 different categories right now. So there's I don't know if you're able to pan up, or there's the minds.
Well, what I actually did, which you can see, is I just switched over to Chrome. So what you can actually see, let me just move that up there. There we go. So now, how's that?
All right, let's take a look.
All right. So
yep, there we go. That's wonderful. And I'm going to tweet it out as well. So at the very top one is the mind space. And this is really around a number of apps that have emerged, as well as devices. And the tweet is live. And there's mindfulness apps, which I think most people are aware of, but there's also, especially, let's talk about suicide prevention. There's peer-based ones where you can talk to a human, and there's one called 1-800-Crisis Text Line, where you can talk to somebody, crowd-based, and sometimes the conversations are anonymous. And there's another one called Wizdo, based out of Israel, and they pair people and you can have these conversations. They're not trained therapists, they're not, but they're people you can talk to and build empathy, or just when you want somebody to listen. And after you've gone through that, you can actually become one of those people, a supportive person, a mentor to somebody else. And so there's this like gradual progression, and that's part of your healing process. And so there's a number of tools that have emerged specifically for people to connect to each other, especially when they're physically isolated in our homes or our backyards. There's also chat-bot-based versions, including one called Woebot, WOEBOT. And you can talk to an AI chat bot with natural language processing and cognitive behavioral therapy lessons to teach you things on how to manage your emotions. And you might be feeling down because you have an injury from a run on Monday. What can you do to learn about yourself? How can you refocus your energy? So that's the mind space. Any questions on that one? And we can go to we'll go to all 4 quadrants.
No, keep going. And by the way, if you're watching as well and you have questions, please just put them in the comment thread.
Cool. I see the chat as well. So the next space is great, and this is the graphic, and you can see like the ring of technologies around those, around the Vitruvian person. So the next one on the right is the body space, and obviously there's fitness apps, but then there's genomics data where you send in a swab from your cheek, also microbiomes, which could come from your belly button, ear, nose, or your gut, and those are being used to determine even your diet. What should you eat? There are numerous supplement companies, of course, and new categories called breath tech devices for breathing or sensing your breathing, or even detecting COVID or Alzheimer's. Amazon Alexa even has some of these skill sets as well. And then on the bottom category, which is community in the purple, there's been studies that show that the people who live the longest, it's not about can you do 100 burpees, it's actually do you have purpose? Are you connected to your community? Do you have an important role in your community? Are you doing something to help other people and being connected? And this has become even more important. Right now, one of the trends that we've identified for some of our client work is called trouble finding your tribe. Joseph, you found your tribe. It's CoronaTV, but many people have not found their tribe. And they're spiraling into depression because they're not connected. And by the way, phones can actually detect if somebody's getting close to suicide. You can actually identify, did the location of the phone, did they stay in their bedroom and not move it? And are they watching and consuming endless YouTube videos on and Netflix constantly? This is a form of binging and not moving or even taking a shower. It could actually send alerts and signals to their loved ones. Hey, you better check up on Jack because he's actually not moving. This is a sign of depression. So you can actually identify through tech people's potential moods. And so community has become so important. Let me give some examples on the positive side. I've already talked about like 1-800-crisis text line and Woebot and Wisdo, but there's even virtual co-working apps where you can get into a room like Chat Roulette did a few years ago and just be in a room and work with somebody that you don't even know. Camera on or off, it doesn't matter. And then people take breaks. And it's a great way to have that office experience or that WeWork experience that we were so craving. Even the way that people are dating, they go on digital Zoom dates now. And it's obviously a very awkward thing, but people are trying to make the best of it. And the dating apps themselves have changed to have remote and digital based ways to do dates and or COVID testing to make sure somebody's screened before they actually have a physical date.
I just can't believe that you actually brought back chat roulette. I think that's there needs to be like, you know, one of those magic words. Like if you say the phrase, you get paid out. That was brilliant. Chat roulette. That just brought me back. Yesterday we discussed pets.com. Today it's chat roulette. I know. Also, Jeremiah, what's interesting is when we talk about community, I think that's where you've also brought, as I was alluding to earlier, elements of, there's crowdfunding in there and crowdsourcing, but also the sharing economy that this is very much a connected framework, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, and digital and tech in general connects the crowd and often peer-to-peer at the edges of the network. And all of these trends that I talked about, the e-commerce, .com, social media, sharing economy, tech well-being, it's all connecting people as a network rather than relying on a centralized node. And if you notice this bigger trend, I can see it in the comments that, or hinting at this, you can see the tech companies are enabling people to take care of their wellness when the healthcare system failed them. So that's one of these things is the power is shifting away from traditional healthcare because it hasn't always worked or it's too expensive. And it's shifting now to the crowd.
I feel that brings us to the fourth category, right, which is space, because I think what's also interesting is how you've brought together and contextualized sustainability and environmental respect and responsibility, and also recognizing that our wellness, first of all, there's our wellness connected to our tribes, our community, but then how can you not bring the environment into play?
Right. And so this has become more important than ever because our environment around us is at war or at odds with us. Or like, for example, you can kind of tell, but it's very smoky here in California. Yesterday, the sky was bright orange like a pumpkin. I've never seen such a thing ever. Freaking frightening.
No, totally. Leading to your dreams as well. By the way, Omano is here and he said yes. But you have to tell us what you were saying yes to. Are you saying yes to Jeremiah, in which case you'd be on the money? Are you saying yes to space? Yes to this beautiful logic and emotion chart? Be more specific, Mr. Omano. But please, Jeremiah, continue and just,
Yeah.
I mean,
What's
it's
up, David?
fascinating.
So the physical space, like we're in conflict with the environment around us. So we're seeing that airplanes and train systems are putting up intelligent UV lighting systems to cleanse those areas of potential germs. We should expect that future cars will have some type of spray inside of them and or UV lights on handles so they can be cleansed. So the tech will be used. So there's one called phone soap where you put your phone into this device and it cleans off the bacteria and viruses. So we'll see elements of that happening. But it's also around not just antiviral, but creating a calm design, reducing alerts from your phone, which can trigger stress and just constant anxiety. And the way that apps are designed, that's also part of this experience. And then how can even the chat AI voices be used in a way that are calming? So this is called calm tech, versus most of the technology right now is designed as anxiety tech, where it's popping, blinking, shouting, pick me up, touch me, grab me, I'm asking for you, look, somebody's talking about you, comment, like, push. And that intensity is how they drive their business models.
Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text. Sorry, carry on.
And it's so disruptive, right? When we're trying to have a discussion or a conversation, right? And then so those things are happening because that's their business model. Their business model is to get your attention, and so that is starting to be analyzed. Is that really the way we want society? And there has been a number of initiatives from these big tech companies that are trying to have more ethical designs around their products, and that's called calm tech. Calm tech is a whole category and even a conference series on creating technologies that aid the human experience, not are disrupting them.
I really love that because, calm tech, we've seen various elements of calm tech. For example, when we go for a run, immediately our phones or our Apple Watches, if that's what we have, activates do not disturb mode, and that's a default. Or when we're driving, the same thing, which is now we're not going to be distracted while driving. Those are just, I think, two not even new ideas, but I'm excited to see what's coming down the pike with respect to calm tech. And I love the demonstration from you, by the way. I
know, it's really intense, right? But I was trying to drive a point. So if you go back to the graphic, that is the modern well-being market. And so the wellness space is a $4.2 trillion market, which includes like even hotels.
Should I go back to, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go back to, should I go back to the chart that has some of the companies on them, or you have to be where I am right now?
Yeah, let's go to the company chart.
All right.
The Jeremiah scape. And essentially, it's a $4.2 trillion market growing at a 5.6% compounded annual growth rate. But the tech market itself is only a component of that. But this market has been funded probably a few billion. I tallied up the numbers of funding last year. I need to redo it again. But essentially, I took that same graphic that I just walked you through on the product categories. And for those that have known my career progression, this is how I charted the sharing collaborative economy. So I say, here's the market, here's the trend, and then I show you, here's the startups to bring it to life. And then I have funding data, adoption data. I know many of the founders, and so I know the market trends and on how it's going to go. So you can see, we don't need to go through it in detail, but essentially with all of the startups, we took 500 startups and we applied a criteria set on top, and we just featured, I think, the top 100 or 200 in this to say, here are some of the big winners in this space already, but I need to redo it. This is over a year old and the market's changed a lot. So that's kind of a market overview of modern well-being. This is the market because it's about us, and it impacts all the other markets. For example, this market impacts marketing. If you know what somebody's facial structure is and their facial expressions, they can't lie to you. Like when you walk into the Amazon Go store, if you have ability to do that now, there's cameras everywhere. They actually know which product you're going to pick up before you do. Think about that for a sec.
Wow.
They know which product you're going to pick up before you actually do, because they can see your eyes and they can see how your pupils dilate to the packaging or to the product or to the price. That's extremely powerful. Imagine you're doing sales calls and there's you applying this AI technology, you can identify if the customer's engaged or they're bullshitting you, or vice versa. You can see if the salesperson's bullshitting you. Like this is extremely powerful technology, and I want to bring one controversial point forward. With all of this data, like these watches that know, like for example, you're an Apple guy, so Apple knows that there's something wrong with you already, Joe. It already knows you're injured because you haven't run in a few days, and so it already has that data, and it also, and Google knows what you've been searching, how to stretch out my glute, right? It already knows how do you foam roll. So they already know this information about you, whether or not it's explicit or just in the background through big data analysis. So the really damning prediction I have, and I know this always stirs people up, but I'm going to ask you a question, Joe. My theory is that the tech companies know how long we will live down to the month. They already know.
Wow.
And the reason they already know is they can take existing life insurance actuary data, which does this. And again, when they take your life insurance, and I had this done a few years ago, they come to your house, they do a blood draw, weigh your body, and they measure your circumference of your waist and a few other basic questions: do you smoke or not? And it's done once. But how much data does Google and Amazon and Apple have from you constantly? It's megabytes, gigabytes per year, and more, and it's continuing to come. Then they can compare that data to other populations of similar men like Joseph, of same South African descent or European descent, who live in your area, same income and your type of neighborhood, and they can draw out models. So with that assumption that these tech companies do know our natural life expectancy down to the month, my question to you, Joe, is how much would you pay to get this information? And secondly, how much would you pay to make sure nobody else gets it?
Well, I tell you, I'd pay even more if I could extend my life.
There you go. That's the right answer. That is the right answer.
Oh, good. Well, because big dollars. And by the way, Phil said, Corona Byte, that time code, Joe, Jeremiah's punctuated rant was awesome. Not only was it awesome, but it might have to go into the actual opening of the show, because you didn't expect that animation from Jeremiah, who is so even-keeled and tempered. But let's go back to what you were saying. All I was thinking when you were talking, Jeremiah, was we can use our powers for good or for evil. As
That's
a corporation, as individuals, as thought leaders, as government officials. And what stuck with me today and what struck me was this idea of being able to predict. It brings us full circle. Someone that potentially could be depressed and leaning towards suicide based on just the phone. Yep. I met a company based in San Francisco, and they use the phone, which, if you think about this is a mobile ad solution. They can tell based on the accelerometer or whatever, the compass, the angle, whether you are leaning forward or leaning back, whether you are submissive or submitting to a piece of content, whether you so they really have the potential to tailor a message, because they can tell if someone is, quite frankly, on their bed with their phone above their head versus kind of lying on their stomach and leaning down. And all of that is built into the phone. But I'm much more interested in what you're working on, how we can save lives, how we can amplify lives, how we can better lives. That seems to be more meaningful. Yeah,
that's right. That is, I had never really thought of that, but that's amazing. But the amount of information that we haven't even been able to understand and predict it, right? Like all of this information can tell us so much about intent and what people are thinking and what they want to do. These are all tied. In this market, I interviewed one company called Emotion Lab, and they use a camera just like this, and they can analyze 110 micro expressions. That's what the average human has. And then from there, you can determine their actual, how they feel. For example, Americans, and I'm sure you recall this when you first moved here, Americans have a fake smile when you meet them. And so if you could use that emotion to find out, are they really depressed? Is my friend actually sad? Like you can actually find that in the structure of the eyes, and the wrinkle around the eyes can determine some of that. So this data could be used to help save lives.
So I don't have a fake smile.
Well, you're South African.
Oh, good. Well, I'm I'm American now. I'm naturalized. I'm a citizen. So I've got to work on my fake smile. But someone who does not have a fake smile is Jeremiah Owyang. Well, maybe that is his fake smile.
Oh no, I have a fake smile. When you do your business meetings, everybody does the fake smile, unless you're in Europe.
Can we see it, or is that giving it away?
Hi, David Armano. Hi, Steve Garfield.
Oh my God.
So
I like it.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating to see like how tech can determine what is the true behavior and intent of somebody. Yes. So anyways, that's the market. Tech well-being market.
That's the market, and this is the market man. In fact, I am coining a new phrase today, or at least you coined it. I'm just saying you don't need a Lumascape in life. You need a Jeremiah-scape. Not an escape, but a Jeremiah-scape. Jeremiah and I are going to head on over to, of course, the Zoom room for a little bit of an after show. But before I do that, Jeremiah, I feel like, again, it comes full circle, which is to play the Who Said This quote game, even knowing full well that you have no chance of actually guessing this. But I thought it was, a good way to end it, because it brings us back to perspective, reality, healthy body, healthy mind, detoxing. Mm-hmm. This is the quote. People who smile, not fake smile, right? People who smile while they are alone used to be called insane until we invented smartphones and social media. So you're not going to get it. So I'm just going to put you out of your misery.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure that I can pronounce his name correctly, but I think it's Mokokama Mokonwana. And he's South African. I practice it. Mokokama Mokonana. I've even invited him to be on the show because he seems to be a very interesting man. But Mokokama, you get the second last word. The last word goes to you, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I've flashed a bunch of ways people could connect with you. What would you like to leave us with a final thought?
You're not alone. We're all trying to connect to each other and get through this time. Technology can be an aid. Sometimes it hurts us too. But this is a way for us to connect to each other and really to improve our health and get through this. Thanks for having me today on CoronaTV.
Thank you for being here today. You guys got a treat. You got an unbelievable highlight and insight into tech wellness. This is not just about wearables. This is about connectedness, right? How we connect with technology, how we connect to each other, how we connect to our environment, and how all of this creates a much more profound interconnectedness that hopefully will get us through these tough times and beyond, and for whatever life throws our way. So we'll see some of you, bit.ly/CoronaTV after show with my guest today, the one, the only, the humble, the wellness walker, Jeremiah Owyang. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.